The rain had been coming down in sheets along Highway 47, turning the world into a blur of gray when Angela Carter pulled her SUV into the dimly lit rest stop just past midnight. She was driving home from a legal conference 3 states over, exhausted, wearing jeans and an old college sweatshirt, her hair pulled back in a bun. All she wanted was a quick break, stretch her legs, grab a bottle of water, and get back on the road. But she barely made it from the vending machine to her car before the headlights lit her up like a stage and 2 uniformed officers stepped into her path. "Ma'am," one of them barked, "mind telling us what you're doing here?" The question wasn't about curiosity. She could hear the suspicion dripping from his voice. "It's a rest stop," Angela replied, keeping her tone calm. "That's what it's for." But they weren't interested in calm. The second cop circled behind her, his hand resting on his holster. They wanted control. And in their eyes, her skin color was already evidence enough that she didn't belong. Within minutes, their questions became accusations. Was she transporting drugs? Was the car stolen? Why was she so nervous? When she didn't answer the way they liked, they told her to put her hands behind her back. Angela had spent 15 years in courtrooms, watching how quickly power could turn ugly. Still, there was a sting to the cold bite of handcuffs, to the smug satisfaction on their faces as they searched her vehicle without cause. She told them they were violating her rights. They laughed. They kept her standing in the rain for 40 minutes, humiliated, before deciding to let her off with a warning for what, they never said. She drove away that night with wet clothes, clenched teeth, and the quiet rage of a woman who had seen injustice before but rarely so close. What those officers didn't know, couldn't have imagined, was that Angela Carter wasn't just any woman heading home in the rain. She was a sitting circuit court judge. And less than 12 hours later, she would be the one they'd stand before, not as enforcers of the law, but as the accused. The next morning, Angela walked into her chambers in her black robe, her hair neatly styled, her face composed into the calm, unreadable expression she'd perfected over years on the bench. A clerk handed her the day's docket. 2 names caught her eye. She recognized them instantly. The same 2 officers who had arrested her at the rest stop were scheduled for a misconduct hearing stemming from a citizen complaint, not hers, but another driver they'd harassed a month earlier. When they entered the courtroom, they didn't recognize her at first. She let them speak, let them stumble through their excuses, let them lean on the same thin veil of reasonable suspicion they'd used on her. But when it came time for her to address them, she removed her glasses, leaned forward, and said, "You and I met last night." Their faces went pale. "I was the woman you detained without cause at the Highway 47 rest stop. I told you you were violating my rights. You laughed. Today, gentlemen, the laughter is over." The silence in that room was heavy enough to crush the walls. Over the next hour, Angela dismantled their defense piece by piece, citing policy, precedent, and the Constitution they were sworn to uphold. She didn't raise her voice. She didn't need to. Her authority was in every measured word, every pointed question they couldn't answer without damning themselves further. By the end, they weren't smug anymore. They were sweating. And when she handed down her decision, suspension without pay pending further investigation, recommendation for mandatory bias training, and referral to the state attorney's office for review, her voice was steady. Unshaken. Outside the courthouse, word spread fast. Some called it poetic justice. Others called it divine. But those who knew Angela Carter best just smiled and said it was nothing more than the law doing what it was meant to do. Holding the powerful accountable, no matter the badge, no matter the uniform. And if this story made you believe that sometimes, Life has a way of seating the right person behind the bench at exactly the right time, then hit that subscribe button. More true stories of justice, both frontier and modern, are coming your way, and you won't want to miss them.